Welcome back to the CX Pulse podcast. On today's show, we'll be discussing improving the relevance of AI for CX. And today's guest expert is Dave Michels. Dave is an independent industry analyst and consultant, and his background combines years of IT operational experience at Fortune 500 companies like Coors and GE, as well as mid-size organizations in travel and manufacturing. Dave, you're also an active blogger on telecom and related topics at TalkingPointz.com. That's TalkingPointz with a Z. So we'll send our listeners there, but have to shout out, you are a CU alum. You went to school in Colorado as well, right?
Yeah, I just sold my house in Boulder. My house, by the way, was the house, maybe you remember it when you lived there. My house was the one that had an operating phone booth out in the front yard, what they call a Superman phone booth, a glass phone booth that said Bell System on it, and I had it set up for free calls.
Oh my gosh, I love that. That does sound familiar. I know Boulder's such an eclectic place. Well, it's good to talk to a fellow buff, so we're happy to have you on the show today. You know, AI technology has been evolving rapidly and gaining more attention than ever, but it takes more than a good conversational AI model to build excellent customer experiences. So today we're going to talk about what it takes to make AI relevant for CX, what makes exceptional AI, and how companies are reacting to ChatGPT's disruption. So Dave, before we get started, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and about yourself?
I love communications. I've always been involved in enterprise communications throughout my career. I founded TalkingPointz, and it's a research and analysis firm. I do blogging. I publish an insider report. I do media posts, etc. And I basically just do it for fun. I just can't believe that I could actually make a living out of it. So that's who I am, and I'm very active on social media.
Yeah, I love your passion behind it. And because you've worked with such big companies and you're also just on the pulse of what's new and what's going on, we're excited to chat with you today. So to kick things off, why don't you tell us what it means for AI to be relevant for CX applications, in your opinion?
For AI to be relevant, I mean, AI doesn't need any help being relevant in the contact center, that's for sure. AI has been around for as long as we can remember in science fiction, back in the days when it was complete fantasy to talk to your computer for it to understand you. But suddenly, a funny thing happened in the way the contact center, suddenly this stuff is all working now. It's almost shocking how much AI is impacting the contact center or customer engagement in general. But it's kind of in that sweet spot because customers want self-service. And so there's some self-service capabilities from AI. Businesses want automation, and AI kind of fits into there. There's a strong ROI. And so that's always good. And of course, it can improve customer satisfaction and CSATs. It's in that perfect zone. And as a result, AI is changing both the contact center and broadly customer engagement in almost every way imaginable. The contact center has been around for 50 years, and things move very slowly in that sector. And all of a sudden, everything is changing. So I mentioned self-service, how we do forecasting, how we do coaching and mentoring of our agents, how we do quality metrics. These are all being changed by AI. How we measure CSAT, how we do our routing, how we do our logging and summarizing, and even the audio noise filtering and audio enhancements, sentiment scoring. It just goes on and on. And so everything is in play right now in customer engagement.
Yeah, you're so right. I think our trust level is rising as well on the customer front, right? We're willing to trust those AI options as just the first point of contact, which is good to see because they are getting so much better. But again, you're taking a look at it from all fronts. So in your opinion, what does it take for an AI model to be considered good versus exceptional?
Good and exceptional were stretch cases just a few years ago. And so people have a right to be a little hesitant about this. And I've been one of the people that have been yelling, operator, representative, whatever it takes to get past this this bot or whatever it is. But lately I've noticed that's changed, and I'm willing to give the bot an opportunity, and I'm finding more and more that it actually works. And so I think there's going to be a little bit of a resistance curve. To answer your question about what makes good versus exceptional, I guess I kind of look at it with two tests. The first test is I love invisible technology. And so I mentioned earlier about the audio enhancements, getting better quality audio. When the technology just kind of works in the background and makes things better for all parties, or even just some of the parties, uh, what we call augmented agent, where the AI is helping the agent. It's not necessarily invisible to the agent, but it's invisible to the other person the other on the line. Better routing, stuff like that. And so there's a lot of what I consider visible technologies, and I love it when the technology is invisible and beneficial. Now the second test, because not everything is going to be invisible. Obviously, if you're interacting with a chatbot or something like that, it's going to be very visible and obvious. And so the second test is really, just to put it simple, is whether it's helpful or not, if it could actually solve a problem. And that's a little easier said than done. Um, I think the problem with AI is it tends to make a lot of assumptions. And I think this is where it gets really frustrating for people. I was just with somebody on a trip, and their flight got canceled, and they got notified that, hey, your flight's been canceled. Oh darn! And then he got the next text that said, we've rebooked you. We've taken care of it. And he's like, oh, that's great. And then he started looking at it and go, oh, that's not going to work. That's not going to work. And so it made all these assumptions about this person's travel, and it was actually a bad experience for the person. And so I think that uh, these number of assumptions that the AI makes often gets itself in trouble. A human tends to ask questions. Hey, your flight got canceled. Do you want to leave the same day? Do you want to leave the next day? Would you like to go? Would you like to wait for a direct flight or a nonstop flight, or would you like to leave earlier and go through, some other city? Um, and so I think that uh, when it actually solves the problem, AI becomes much more exceptional in your terms, and um, and everybody's happier. And so it seems like it's a little longer. Why couldn't it just solve my problem? But I think the ultimate test is, did it solve the problem? Not did it do a next step?
I get what you mean. I had a flight experience like that recently where I got rebooked the next morning, but then there was a glitch in how the app connected to my reservation. So it created this whole entirely new set of problems that I didn't really even ask for. And I was sort of going, wow, I wish I would have just called an agent, right? So that balance and tipping point of when it starts to work, I think it's a good indication of where groups and companies need to lean into, where they're going to focus next. Dave, tell me, what are the key touch points that you believe AI will need to interface with as part of a digital CX strategy?
When you say touch points, I think the standard answer is to say something like, your chats and your voice channels and things like that. I don't think it's that formulaic, to be honest. I think
Okay.
when we get into a digital CX arrangement, and the touch points are a little broader. If you think about your own personal interactions, maybe with your friends, family, or colleagues, maybe you're trying to search for a conversation. You've got some information that you need. When are they coming in on the flight? I have to pick them up. And there's like this search we go through. It's ridiculous. Was it a SMS message on my phone? No, it was an email. No, I know it. It was in Facebook. We go through this whole thing, and we're trying to piece together this conversation. And the reality is, today's conversations are multimodal. And they'll start in Facebook, and then they'll move to a voice call, then they'll move to an email, and because you forwarded me your flights or whatever, and these conversations are multimodal. And so I think a digital CX strategy has to be designed to capture the conversation, and the conversations are multimodal. So it's really a function of, where are you allowing your conversations to extend to? I mean, is Twitter part of it? Maybe not, maybe it is. And so the answer to the question is, it's not so much where you touch the customer, it's really where you talk to the customer and interact with the customer. Um, Touch point could be, sending them a package in the mail. Maybe that should be included, maybe it shouldn't be, but I'm thinking more about the conversation. And I also think, we call it in the internet a right to forget. Sometimes I've been involved with a contact center. I'll call up and ask an agent a question, and I don't get the answer I like. And so I'll hang up and call back. And until I get the right agent that will say yes to my question. Sometimes this is really good for me, because I'm sure it's a training issue. This agent didn't understand. I happen to know the answer, so I will just wait till I get to someone. Sometimes it's bad, right? Sometimes I'm trying to beat the system. But the problem is that right to forget is has to it potentially goes away with these AI systems. If they capture every bit of the conversation, that could be a bit of a problem. And I don't think people realize how important that right to forget is. Sometimes we want a blank slate. And so that's going to be a tricky thing to figure out in AI. I think we want to capture all this conversational data, but at the same time, we also want to know when to forget things and when to reset conversations. And I think that option, if we're not careful, is going to disappear.
Yeah, that's a good point. Each of us has sort of a rating over our heads, right? Wherever we go throughout this world. And that can be, when you really need to get things done, that can be dangerous, right? Not to be able to get the information you need because of your previous online interaction or wherever it was. But, well, in your opinion, do you believe that companies are moving too fast to adopt AI solutions or not fast enough? I think I know where you're headed with this, but you tell me.
It's a loaded question. There's no right
Yeah.
answer to that one.
Yeah.
It's impossible. The simple answer is they're acting too quickly to implement AI badly. And so the right answer is you can't move quick enough to implement good solutions that improve CSAT or lower costs, and I should say, and lower costs. And so the two responses there have to balance themselves out. You want to do it right, and that sometimes takes time. Now, contact centers, unfortunately, are known for what the industry calls deflection techniques. Agents are expensive, so let's send the call to an IVR and we'll deflect the call away from the agent and see if we can solve that. And they often do that even when there's no hope of resolution that way. And it's just a big insult to everyone. Now, AI can be part of that deflection game, and that's where it gets really frustrating. And you're calling to get some problem solved, you're deflected to some sort of chatbot. The chatbot's not going to solve your problem. It's just frustrating for everybody. It's just actually a big insult to everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it doesn't have to be that way. And a lot of good AI can actually solve problems. And our attitudes are starting to change. We talked about this earlier already. I called to activate a credit card. This wasn't really AI, but I called to activate a credit card. And if you recall, well, maybe you can't recall this far back, but I can recall this far back, that when you used to do this, you used to get a live operator and you had to read the card number and all that stuff, and they would activate.
I do remember that, yes.
Okay. And so then it became a bot. It wasn't an AI bot, but it became a bot that would basically do self-service, and you enter your card number and it would activate the card number. And I recently called a credit card and I got a live operator, and it pissed me off. It's like, what kind of credit card company is so stupid to be using a live agent to just do what a machine can do? And so it's amazing how our attitudes do change. And that was a really interesting experience for me, because it's like, well, I would think that I'd want an agent, but there are indeed times where, and I think we're going to start learning this, where an automated solution is actually preferable. Maybe it's around getting your medical results. Maybe it's around something, we've always seen this with the bank information, and you want to know your balance and stuff. It's better to deal with a machine sometimes than it is to deal with a human. We trust machines. I have no problem giving the ATM machine my PIN code, but if a live operator asked me for my PIN code at the bank, I'd probably be a little hesitant. And so there's a lot of opportunities to use AI to solve the problem that we talked about earlier. And but to do this properly takes a lot of time, takes a lot of patience, and takes a lot of data. And you have to be working with the right vendors and the right channel partners that can make use of your data and your problem that you're trying to solve in an effective and logical way.
Dave, I've really enjoyed our chat today. This has been awesome. As we wrap up, why don't you let our listeners know where they can get in touch with you and maybe reach out to learn more information?
I appreciate that, Amelia. Dave Michels, there's no A in Michels, and TalkingPointz, there's no S in points, it's a Z. So if you can figure out how to not spell correctly, you'll be able to find me. And I used to be a really simple answer to that question. I just say go to TalkingPointz.com and everything was there, but I'm finding more and more everything's not there anymore. So I guess the best sources are my insider reports. I have both a paid version and a free version, and you can get that at Talking Pointz. But I've also really enjoyed this conversation. I've been a fan of yours for a long time. I can't believe I'm talking to you. So this is fantastic.
Well, that just totally makes my day. Thank you very much, Dave. Thanks so much for being on the show, and hopefully we can chat again soon. Thank you so much for joining us on the CX Pulse podcast. Stay tuned for upcoming episodes. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe and leave a 5-star review. This podcast is brought to you by NICE, the world's leading cloud CX platform. Go to nice.com to learn more about our innovative and comprehensive end-to-end CX solutions. That's nice.com.